All right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you, wherever you are in this beautiful world. Welcome to our Inner Circle Live pre-New York session. I'm your host, Ryan Carthage. We'll be joined shortly by my awesome partner, Mr. Benny Allen. Hope everybody is doing well today on this beautiful Tuesday. So as always, let's turn off all distractions, grab a pen and paper, let's take lots of notes, and let's make sure that we participate and engage. All right. And so if you guys can hear me okay, just drop me one in the chat and we can get rocking. All right, perfect. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. So, we got a decent amount to catch up on from a fundamental perspective. The weekend was I'll for lack of better terms, I'll say eventful from a geopolitical perspective. Tons of things happening around the world. So let's let's get to it. We're gonna hop into trading economics first. Actually, no. We're going to go to we're going to go to Bloomberg first, um, because some articles there that are very interesting. So let's see if we can do this. Boom. Can you guys see my screen? Bloomberg. Yep. All right, cool. So, um, Israel vows to respond. So over the weekend, right, we talked about it on Friday, 24 to 48 hours before Iran the aerial attack with missiles and such on Israel. That happened. It happened. Israel sent 300 missiles of different types to Israel. They were intercepted, the majority of them. Um, but Israel basically, and these are my terms, not theirs, but this is a warning, right? They forecasted what they were going to do, and they let it be known that it was going to happen for multiple days, and then it happened. Um, and they said, "This is our retaliation. That's it." Um, Israel is like, "We're going to respond. We're going to respond." The rest of the world, US, UK, Europe, they're like, slow down. You don't want to respond. If you respond, it's going to be a larger conflict that we don't know if we're ready for yet. Um, but Israel's like, we're going to respond. So um at some point, Israel is going to respond. This is the article here. I'll post it into the chat. Um, it's just a matter of when, it sounds like, but the world is trying to push this back and slow things down because it will ultimately trigger a larger, start out as a regional scenario, and scale further than that. The rest of the world is like, hey, we don't want a larger war, but also we don't want to impact oil. If we impact oil, inflation is going to continue to rise. If inflation continues to rise, we can't cut rates. We can't cut rates. We have a larger problem from a financial perspective. So all of these things are coming into play, coming into the conversation. So there's meetings that are happening this week, that this will likely be part of the conversation. You got G7 meetings, G20 meetings, with different regions around the world. And this is going to be definitely be a topic of conversation in how in how the world prepares and how Israel moves forward. So that's something that we definitely want to stay aware of. Um, then we have uh, bu- 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 did they remove it? Um, looks like they removed it off this page, but um, Japan gave another warning, right? As the dollar continues to rise to the upside. I can't find it on here, but the dollar's running hot. You got geopolitical tensions. You got um, data that's just extremely hot, and the dollar yen is continuing to run to the upside. And with that, Bank of Japan's like, hey, we're watching. However, the tone changed a bit. They didn't give their harshest warning that they could have given. Um, but they said we're watching. Now, there are meetings with the International Monetary Fund this week that finance minister of Japan and other financial individuals around the world are headed to. So they kind of held off their stark warnings and ahead of those meetings. So we'll see what happens when all the financial people come together. They'll have these conversations, and we could hear some conversations come from that that are a little more stern than what we heard today from the Bank of Japan, which is basically like, "Hey, we're watching and we're ready to take action if necessary." So, um, it sounds like an intervention is coming. It's just a matter of when. So when we look at the charts, we'll take a look at the dollar yen, and we could see 156, potentially even 160, potentially this week, depending on how things go. So that's something that's at the forefront of everybody's mind is what is the Bank of Japan going to do and when. Um, then you had UK jobless rate rises more than expected. Unemployment rate rose to 4.2% from December's 2023 to February, up from 3.9%. So unemployment increasing in the UK. So we're starting to see some of that data come out in favor of potentially cuts for the UK, which they're planning on. It's just a matter of how many. That's really the conversation coming out of the UK. Then, right, here's the dollar rising. Fifth straight session towards 106, hovering at its highest levels in over 5 months. Hotter than expected U.S. retail sales reinforced bets that the Federal Reserve will delay the start of the easing cycle. Retail sales increased 0.7% month over month in March, while retail sales excluding auto surged the most in 14 months, underscoring robust consumption despite tight financial conditions. Markets now see the Fed delivering its first cut in September, right? So we've gone from June to September. So that also decreases the number of cuts potentially. You got Benny talked about Saturday, Fed Chair Bostic talking about one cut, and he's been talking about one for quite some time, and looks like investors are inching close to that. Now, I also did read an article. I have to go back and find that one as well. But if we continue to see things like oil rise, there's starting to be conversation around the Fed increasing rates again, pushing to 6.5% at most. So that's conversation that's also starting to happen that would definitely impact everything, right? So that's investors are starting to look at those scenarios for the potential of that happening, and that could throw a lot of things into kind of a tailspin, right? From from an employment perspective, from a debt perspective, right? We talked about the loans that are coming due, that a lot of businesses aren't able to pay because they don't have tenants in their buildings. But that also puts more stress on banks as well. So if that occurs, and if the Fed, or even if the Fed just continues to delay their cuts, you're going to see more talks and more conversation around issues with banks, right? as we talked about it at the end of last year, beginning of this year, how that conversation is going to come back around. As far as banks that have issues, there's banks that still have tons of debt on their books. There's banks that are heavily invested in commercial real estate, that commercial real estate investors and owners aren't able to pay back. Um, so we're going to see this cycle again of smaller regional banks having more issues because they can't handle the financial pressure because they're too they're over leveraged ultimately. So that's going to be more conversation as well, especially if the Fed increases these rates again, right? So also something we want to keep in the back of our mind. So I'll find that article and I'll share that as well. But I found that very interesting that that's conversation that's starting, especially with the geopolitical tensions, and if oil continues to rise. So over to the calendar. Right, G7 meeting started on Sunday. PPI for the Swissy came in below expectation, even though we're still seeing some Swissy strength out there due to risk-off sentiment across the market. Then yesterday you had, this is the core retail sales number, right? Came in well above expectation. Empire State Manufacturing came in below expectation. And then your retail sales month over month came in also above expectation there. Um, da, 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 da. All right, those International Monetary Fund meetings started yesterday. Um, so for today, right, here's that unemployment change for the UK, right? Better than expect. Mm, oh, so it's lower than expected. I'm sorry. So better than expected. So um, not as many as the forecast, but well above previous month. So it increased, but not as much as forecasted there. Average hourly earnings is up. Um, Then, as we move through the day today, we have CPI for the Canadian dollar, which is going to be an interesting number to watch. We'll see how that fares for the Canadian dollar. We have building permits, FOMC members speaking, um, IMF day 2, more FOMC members speaking. Governor Bailey speaks at 1 o'clock. Member Barkin speaks at 1 o'clock. Governor Macklem speaks at 1:15. Chair Powell speaks at 1:15. Then tonight you have CPI quarter over quarter for the New Zealand dollar, trade balance for the Japanese yen. So a busy day today, especially with the International Monetary Fund meetings that are happening. So there's going to be a lot of conversation that goes on. So we could definitely see some volatility in the markets right now. Things are kind of stagnant a bit. But we got an interesting week ahead. All right. Got an interesting week ahead. Got more PPI data coming out, CPI data coming out for the UK. Obviously the bank officials are going to be speaking throughout the week. Employment and unemployment change for the Australian dollar on Wednesday, unemployment claims for the US on Thursday, retail sales for the UK on Friday. Right. So a busy week from a fundamental perspective. Are there any questions? Well, that was quite a bit. Nope. All right. Cool deal. So let's let's get to it. The dollar on a tear. On a tear. Right? Headed to the upside. We're at 106. Monthly resistance at 107,027. We could definitely see that number be hit, right? We come back to the daily time frame, look at it from a broader perspective, and that's where we are, right? Headed back to 107. We could potentially at some point see a pullback to retest 104,852 before that continuation, but there's also a chance that we don't, right? We could just continue to run. So we'll watch and see how these conversations fare from the IMF this week. Then that'll give us some insight on on where the market could go. All right. So that's the DXY. Just run into the upside. So at some point we're going to get to 107. I don't see that slowing down anytime soon. So over to the dollar yen, right? Over to the dollar yen. Um, this is where we are. We're at 154,552. D extension achieved on the daily time frame. Took its time, but that move definitely happened, right? Um, this is the next level that I'm looking at 156, 315, and 158, 179. Ryan, why are you looking at that level? Well, and we haven't gotten a swing high yet, so we don't have a new fib to pop in. But once we get a swing high, whenever that shows up, right? If it shows up before that level, we're looking at 80-20 scenario somewhere within there. All right. So that's one thing there. We come down to the 4 hour time frame. And I've been trying to kind of balance this and see, what's happening where. But on the 4 hour time frame, we're pushing toward that 118, 127 zone. And that's that is, yep, that's the fib coming off the low here, right? Um, so that puts us right in this range 156, 315, 158, 179. Right. So 80-20 scenario on the 4 hour, you see the shallow retracement and we're pushing to the upside. Okay. So we're running long there. And I don't see that slowing down until the Bank of Japan steps in. Right. I don't. So we'll watch this and see. Again, these conversations could happen at these IMF meetings this week. So we'll monitor that and see, but we're getting close to that 118 level as we speak. So we come down to the 1 hour time frame and we run our fibs off of the low again. And this is where we stand. So we're pushing through that 118, 127 zone here on the 1 hour, right? Headed toward the D extension. We're likely going to get there without a pullback. And then we look for a new fib, a new reset, right? That'll put us into that 156, 315 range. All right. So dollar yen running to the upside. Um, be patient on this one. Like I said, I'm looking at 156. I don't know that we get to 160, even though that's what some investors are talking about. Um, and some banks are talking about. I don't know that we get there, but this range here, I definitely see as extremely viable for the dollar yen. So we'll continue to monitor the happenings. Also, like I said, geopolitical tensions could also impact things. But in this pair, like I said, I don't think anything will change it outside of intervention from the Bank of Japan. All right. So that's the dollar yen. Any questions there? No. All right. Cool deal. Um, Let's take a look at the dollar CAD. Whoops. Back to the daily, right? You see it's just straight up, man. Just straight up. We got to the D extension on that fib there, right? It's just running long. Not much is going to stop the dollar. So we'll continue to monitor this, see how things go with the data out of Canada. But next level 138, 540, right? That's daily resistance, and 138, 995 is monthly resistance. So I don't see this is another one where it may not slow down, right? We're headed to the upside there. Okay. Um, yeah. Let me just double check one thing here. Got a larger fib there. I thought so. Boom. That's a larger fib there. So on that larger fib, right, we're headed toward that B boundary, but with 618 retracement. So that matching extension is here at 145, 514. I don't see it out of bounds, right? So we'll continue to monitor and see how it goes, but it's running to the upside. We come down to the 4, and that's where we see these smaller fibs setting in. My computer's running a bit slow. Choppiness throughout there. So we'll come here. Yeah. So we'll come to this low here and run our fib to the upside like that. Boom. And there we are. Right. So continue to run long. Here we got a shallow retracement pushing to the upside. This next zone, right, that we mentioned off the daily time frame, that's our 80-20 scenario. So let's see if we get some action like this, and maybe we get a retracement to come in, right, and give us a pullback, maybe getting us back to that 618 level, and then look for opportunity to get back long, right? So that's the potential there on the dollar cat on the 4 hour. So let's watch that and see how things develop throughout the week there. Okay. Come down to the 1. And that's where we are on the 1 hour, right? We're pushing through that 118, 127 zone. Use additional confirmation here, potentially cloud, right? Your trend lines, but this 80-20 could not play out, right? Just because of the strength of the dollar. Okay. That momentum is extremely strong, and I don't know that it slows down. Right. I don't know that it slows down until we run into these higher time frame levels. So if you're looking to trade this off the 1 hour, just be a bit cautious. Um, but trade your plan. Okay. Just use your additional confirmations that are built into the plan. And yeah, yeah. And we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. All right. Boom. Trend line here. Boom. All right. So you got your cloud or you got your trend lines to the upside. Boom. All right. So that's where we're on the dollar cat, right? Pushing through there, but potential 80-20 scenario in these higher time frame resistance levels that we could see and get that retracement that we're looking for. Okay. Questions on dollar cat? Nope. All right. Cool deal. Um, dollar Swiss. This is the 1 hour look running long. Okay. Just running long. We broke that level. We'll go back to the daily and look at it, but broke this weekly level, headed to the upside there. We didn't get that retracement that we're looking for, and just continue to push, which makes sense, right? Makes sense. So come back to the daily, and I'll clean these up. There we are on the daily, right? Pushing to the upside. Pushing to the upside, we're at an 8-6 level on the daily time frame. Okay. We'll look to see what happens here. Again, especially against the Swissy, we may not see much of a retracement on this one. All right. We may not see that. So weekly level here, pushing above that A definitely could get taken out sometime in the near future. Okay. Coming down to the 4. is where we got those fibs running back to the upside. So we had uh ba, 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 right? We had that scenario play out there. The bottom pushed to the upside, so now we're running long. And there we are. So pushing into the 118 and 127 zone here. We'll see what happens. Again, a scenario where we're going to use additional confirmation and be patient. But that could be a potential opportunity. I'm in between those weekly support and resistance levels for a retracement of some sort. But again, that's going to call for the dollar to pull back, which we may not see. Okay. If we do, it could be shallow. Okay. And that's just taking everything into account that's happening, the geopolitical tensions, the hot data. Um, I don't see much that will slow the dollar down at this point. All right. So we're at, we're looking for retracements and continuations, but in some of these pairs, like paired against the Swissy, those retracements could be shallow, right? Just because the weakness overall in the Swissy. Okay. So that's where we are on the dollar Swiss. Questions here? Oh, all right. All right. All right. All right. So that's where we are there. Um, let's go to, let's look at oil real quick. See where we stand. You see, right? This run has just been to the upside. Okay. Started to slow down a bit, but ultimately we're still pushing long, right? Pulling back a little bit now. We'll see what happens, but ultimately looking for price to turn back over, push, continue pushing to the upside there. Okay. We come down to the 4 and we'll run our fibs off the low here. Boom. All right. So the retracement makes sense. We had a shallow retracement in 118 and 127 zone. We're getting the pullback now. Highest we hit was $88 ish, right? So we're pulling back, which makes sense within the framework. Okay. And now we're just looking for a low price to get back long. All right. Looking for a low price to get back long. So that's it. Haven't gotten to that 382 yet, so we'll continue to monitor that. But the pullback makes sense. Okay. We've seen a pullback on some of the Canadian dollar pairs as well. So it all plays into the framework. All right. So up retracement zone on oil. Okay. Come back to the one. You see the 80-20 a little bit more clearly there. Boom. Okay. So low prices to get back long is where we stand. And we may not get back down. We may not see $80, right? We may not see $80 again for a while. So looking for some action potentially like that, right? As they continue to have the talks with Israel, try to talk them off the ledge. Um, we'll hear rhetoric bounce back and forth, which could soft rhetoric push oil down. Tensions are easing, and then we'll see things pick back up. All right, so that's oil. That's where we are looking for a low price there. Okay. Aussie CAD. All right, we said it. It's gonna fall. Okay. That original crown pattern we had didn't quite play out. It just pushed a little bit further to the upside, but we still have a crown pattern intact. All right. Just a deep crown. Boom. So Aussie CAD is headed to the downside. Right. headed to the downside. So we'll watch and see at 87,403 what happens. We got another daily level here. 87,979. We'll watch that level first, but ultimately, looking for this one to continue moving to the downside, right? At some point, we'll see, we could likely see the commodities pick up some steam, especially as these wars gain legs. But this one is going to be the interesting battle because you got two commodity currencies, right? So we'll see how things transpire there, but we could see the Canadian dollar and oil win this one, and price continue to push to the downside there. All right, so that crown pattern is still intact. We come down to the 4 hour, and I had fibs running in both directions here, but the capital fib is to the downside. All right, capital fib is to the downside. Actually, we took that A out here with that push up. So that A got taken out. So the fibs running up was the proper scenario. Boom. And that gave us just shy of that 118 level, turnover and breakdown. We're coming into some lows. However, my assumption is that this A gets taken out at some point, right? So been strong moves to the downside. Let's watch and see how it develops. But on this one, I'm looking for pullbacks and continuations. Right. I don't see this making a large move to the upside anytime soon, right? So I'm looking for at least 87,403. But we could even see deeper than that. All right. Yeah, so that's where we are there on the 4, coming down to the 1. And you see the ABCD sequence playing out beautifully. We didn't get that deep retracement as we would have liked. 50% retracement, continue the move to the downside. But this move started with, this move started with this 80-20. All right, we had our shallow retracement, price pushed into the 118, 127 zone. Okay. Broke above that daily level, gave us an evening star, and we broke down. All right, so that's where that move started. And we just continued to the downside from there. Boom. So we're headed to the D extension here, which will likely hit. Then we'll get a reset. And like I said, we're looking for a high price to continue this move to the downside. All right. So that's around the Aussie CAD. Any questions here?
Yeah, cool question, Ryan.
Yes,
On the
sir.
4, where is you running your fib from? Because I got a different one. I'm running off the like the low.
You started from here.
Um, yeah. That's wait. Is it the? It's the level at the 856, 85. I mean 85672.
I got you.
I mean it's
Yep.
kind of
Okay. Yep. That's larger field. Yep. For sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. That's the
appreciate.
capital fib. You're right.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. You are correct.
So what did you run your? Oh, from the. I was trying
I
to see
started I
the.
started off the high here because I'm bearish on this, right? I think this is going to continue to the downside. So I was just running my fibs off the high, right, and working this the ultimately the sub fibs to the downside in this scenario, right? Just from a fundamental perspective, I'm more bearish on this pair than anything. But this fib is accurate.
All
Right?
right.
That fib is
Okay.
accurate, right? And so you can play this capital fib until the A gets taken out, right? So just be aware what's happening fundamentally. If you're looking for long plays, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just add your additional confirmations in and manage your trade.
Okay. I appreciate it. I just wanted to get that one so I can see.
Yep, yep, yep. You're on point. Good job. All right. Any other questions? No. All right. Cool deal. Uh, Benny, good morning, bro.
My bad. I was on mute. Good morning, Ryan. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. Yourself?
Going pretty good. Good morning, everybody.
Good, good,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Australia is weird, right? I mean, it's the no, well, not Australia and the
Right,
people,
right. No,
but
but
I'm just
the
talking about
currency is
the
acting weird. Yeah.
the currency situation because it's I got yeah, the projection is for them to cut rates this year, but their jobs numbers came through good. Their unemployment rate fell. I think the 3.7 from like 4.1, something like that. I have to go back and read, but I know it fell. So I know that kind of goes into, hey, they're supposed to cut rates this year, but that's pretty sticky and their inflation is sticky right now.
Yeah.
So, even though they're projected to cut this year, the Reserve Bank of Australia has made it clear that they don't think they'll be hiking rates further, I guess, but they're going to stay data dependent as well in regards to uh, the rate cuts.
Right.
So it's the Australian dollar. I'm playing this to the short side right now too, but it's a tricky one right now. So no hikes, so to speak. But it's almost kind of like the U.S. Like when are those rate cuts going to come?
Yeah. Yeah. And my bias is honestly, it's um, more down the line of the geopolitical tensions kind of taking center stage.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
and I think with the situation, and Iran being one of the largest oil producers, I think it said like 3 billion barrels a day or something like that. Um, I think that as conversations continue on, I think that tension will push oil to the upside. I think that can have a larger impact than it kind of sort of has in recent past on the currency. That's kind of where my bias is sitting right now.
yeah. I could roll with you on that one. But then I just saw this morning that China's GDP growth top forecast, right?
It did.
And that's their largest
Largest trade
partner, so
partner.
to speak. So, yeah, I, we'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. This one is always challenging to me with this Australian dollar sometimes. So I mean, but I know where the Aussie dollar pair is going, and that's down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
with the strength of the dollar, so yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
But like I said, I am playing this one. I mean, I am short on this one. So
For sure. Anything else top of mind for you, bro? Either be a
no,
chart
man,
or a fundamental
no, man.
perspective.
That's it. Just continuing to monitor the strength of the dollar. It's
Yeah.
been pushing pretty strong. And you've got what did I see this morning? You got some uh, no, that was it. That was it. That was what I saw. Just keeping an eye on that dollar because I was reading that note that the dollar rises for the fifth session. So that strength continues.
Yeah. Yeah. I was telling the
So
team that I read an article. I gotta go back and find it. But um some investors are and banks are talking about the potential of the Fed having to increase rates again.
I heard, right? Man,
Yeah. Yeah. So that's an interesting scenario to lay on top of everything else. Uh so that's
yeah,
also something I'm trying to
that
plot
that might
into.
that might break something.
That's what I was saying. It could definitely break a lot of things. That commercial real estate market that's teetering, these regional banks that still have bad debt. We could see a lot of things broken. Uh, yeah, and they're already pushing the first cut back to September now. So we could see things definitely start to come unhinged for sure. For sure. And then especially if they increase that, because they set up to like 6.5%. Um, Definitely see things come unhinged.
Yeah, they hike rates. You're gonna see some folks cash out of stock,
Yeah.
which will give us the correction.
Yep. Yep. Give us a question we wait on for sure.
Yeah, yeah. The way a lot of those are positioned, I mean, it's been parabolic. Like it only can run that high for so long,
Hmm.
before you have to have a correction at some point. Um, yeah, yeah, man, they do that, but that's all right. We'll be positioned pretty good as
We
investors to
definitely
take
will.
advantage of it. So,
Definitely will. Definitely will. Appreciate you, bro. Um, any other questions on this Aussie cat or anything that we just talked about? Nope. All right, cool. Um, speaking of that Aussie dollar, down. 8-6 retracement, right? We have these daily levels here, down, down. Next level 63, 386, right? But matching D extension is down here at this monthly support at 61. What is that? 61, 566. So we got a ways to go, but that dollar strength is the dollar strength, and we're headed south, right? So we're looking for pullbacks and continuations. Pullbacks if we get them, and continuation to the downside here, right? We've been right so far. We had the consolidation here, wasn't able to break back to the upside, so we're headed to the downside. All right. We come down to the 4, and you see it's a little bit more clean here, just shy of a 618 retracement on the 4. Boom, down, matching the extension 63,788, which we're almost at, right? So if you just traded this off the 4, off this daily resistance level, right? That's 283 pips to the D extension, and we're almost there. Okay. That move there, you're at 250 right now. Right. So beautiful move to the downside. We'll watch that continue. But again, just looking for pullbacks and continuations. So we come down to the 1, and this is where we could see those pullbacks come. Right. So we got a fresh AB boundary, and we're looking for high prices. So be it here off the B boundary to give us the move back to the upside, or if we get a push into the 118 and 127 zone, that'll give us a counter trend trade opportunity, right? And play that back to the upside to that 382. And then again, right, look for a high price to get short. Now, right, that's if the momentum doesn't continue to carry, right? If the momentum continues to carry this to the downside, allow it to run, right? Allow it to run. We're positioned short, so we know that that's the ultimate direction. We're just looking for opportunities to either, if you're not in it, get in it, or add to the trade if we get the high price. All right. Give me one second.
Ryan, you're still muted.
My bad. Can you hear me?
yep, there you go.
I apologize. Dang.
That's all right. I thought it was
uh,
on my end for a second.
um, no questions on the Aussie dollar. So let's continue here. Aussie yen, just to take a look at some of these. What do you think about 80-20 on the Aussie dollar, Reese? Let's go back real quick. That plays in line with the retracement, right? Let's see. Oh, yeah, good call on that, man. Appreciate it. That plays in line with the retracement, right? So, um, if you're trading time frames lower than a 1 hour, here you go. Boom. Appreciate it, Reese. Boom. There's your 80-20 scenario there, which plays into that retracement. Wow. Right. So again, just add your additional confirmations in there. Because that dollar's been going crazy. So but yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. So we'll watch that there on the 30-minute. Anybody looking to trade that on the counter trend. Okay. Questions on that setup? Oh, all right. Cool deal. Appreciate you, Reese. Aussie yen. So here we are on the daily. We know this one's been long. Even with the retracements, it's still respected this trend line to the upside, right? So that overall move is still happening, right? It's still moving to the upside. 104,443 is the ultimate destination, and it's just been taking its time, small pullbacks in between, right? Making its way to the upside. So we'll see what happens as we continue on, right? But been moving long. We come down to the 4, right? And here we are here. We got a 382. We weren't able to break out to the upside, and we're pulling back now. So we'll watch this and see how things develop with the dollar. I mean, with the yen overall, because that will, I think, if and when this goes short, it's going to be more predicated on changes with the yen. Okay. Here on your 1 is where we have our 80-20 scenario. Boom. Right? And we're trying to make our way to the downside. We haven't gotten to that 382 yet at 98,054, but we're trying to get there. So we'll see how things transpire. You see, we're just trickling to the side right now. Let's see if we get a catalyst to move this thing to the downside, at least get us at 382, and then we'll manage from there. All right, so that one's still in play, working its way down. Okay, questions on the Aussie yen? Nope. All right.
Nope.
Cool deal. Aussie New Zealand still lingering around, right? We got those 80-20 on the 4, still lingering in the zone. We started to push out, we pulled back. Now we're trying to turn back over again. So we'll continue to watch this develop as it goes. Still got a ways to go to get us to that D extension, but we'll allow price to continue to do its thing. Okay. We'll allow price to continue to do its thing. So just a quick peek in there on an update on the Aussie New Zealand. Euro Aussie. Right. This one has been an interesting move as it's bounced back and forth, but overall, right, Benny's been talking about this move continuing to the upside, and through it all, right, we weren't able to break back below 163,479, and we're running, right? We're running. So we got some levels to break through, but we're headed to the upside. Okay, so we'll watch 167,451 as the next level of interest, but we're headed long here. Okay, and then if you come down to your 1, right, this was the move. There we go. That's the larger fib. 8-6 retracement, pushing to the upside. 8-6 retracement, pushing to the upside. Boom. Right. If price doesn't take out your A, it has no choice but to go your way. Long drawn out retracement, try to hold up at the 618, push back down, push deeper, and then you get the turn. Right? So we're headed to the upside off the low. We are up 189 pips. right? A little less than halfway. Okay, so that one is on the move in our favor. Okay, questions on this Euro Aussie? Anybody still sitting in this one? It was an interesting snail. Joy's been killing it on the patience. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. Got stopped out, then it flew. Yeah, that was an interesting bounce back and forth right here. So cool deal. Great work though. Great work. All right. So headed to the upside there. We'll continue to monitor that one as it rises. Um, look at this euro yen. I'm gonna get to these. Also, we're still in this 80-20 scenario off the daily time frame, right? We're pushing back to the upside now. Pushing back above that weekly level 164, 269. So headed to the upside. We got daily resistance there, right? We come down to the 4 and we see we got this 118, 127 zone sitting here, right? 165 range, 165, 166. So we'll see if we break out of this range to the upside, right? We could push into this 118 and 127 zone on the 4, right? And then potentially head back down to the downside. So we'll monitor this as well, but prices range bound right now, just moving across the screen. So again, just like the other yen crosses, we'll watch and see what happens with the yen to give us some direction there. But pushing strong to the upside, actually. You'll come down to the 1, and you see here on the 1, right? Larger fib, you got an 80-20 scenario. Okay. Got an 80-20 scenario here. I ran a sub fib off the high just to track this retracement here. So we'll see if we take out this sub fib A boundary, but we're at a deep retracement level. So watching this one, if we're able to stay inside this AB boundary, and I told you guys I'm building positions on these yen. So if we don't break out to the upside, if we stay in this range, I'll look for the top of the range. I'll likely add another small position to this in preparation for that larger move to the downside. But that's where we are there on the euro yen. Yeah, that's where we sit. So that's also one that we'll continue to monitor. 80-20 is off the higher time frames. Ultimately, I believe we're setting up for a larger play to the downside. Questions on the euro yen? No. All right. Cool deal. Joe said she got stopped out on the pound Aussie. Yeah, this one was also interesting, right? Also interesting because we had this capital fib here that ultimately did get taken out to the downside here, right? And then we weren't able to break out, and then the thing flew to the upside, right? So that one did stop some folks out there before we got that reversal. So yeah, that one was definitely interesting. And we got multiple things happening here, right? So this is the daily fib. We haven't gotten to a 382. So could we be range bound here for a little bit, right? And push back to that 195, 696 level, which would give us a 786 retracement there. Okay. You also got this crown pattern potentially here that could lead us further up, right? So a couple scenarios that'll be interesting to see how the fundamentals play out on this. But right, so a couple different scenarios to look out for as things continue to develop. So I am in this one to the upside, but I'm tracking price to this 195, 696 level first. see what happens there. If we're able to break that, then we'll continue higher, right? So that's kind of my thought on that one. This crown pattern has me kind of being cautious with this one to the downside, because ultimately I do want to get short, right? And take this back to that 382 off the daily, but we got to get out of this consolidation first. So ultimately, if we get back to the A boundary or even to this monthly resistance level at 199, then I'd be looking for, right, looking short potentially to play that back down to the downside with some Aussie strength. But need some fundamental changes to come in order for that to happen, I think. So we shall see there. We shall see. We come down to the 1, and this is where we are in the 1, right? We didn't quite push into that 118, 127 zone. We turned over at the B boundary, double bottom scenario, push to the upside. Okay, so we'll continue to monitor this one as it goes, right? So we'll see if we take out this A boundary first as we push long. Okay, so that's where we are. Questions on pound Aussie? Nope. All right, cool deal. We'll wrap it up with this pound yen. Also pushing to the upside right now, right? Monthly, weekly, we know we're in the 118 and 127 zone. Daily time frame, we're also in the 118 127 zone. So we initially broke the trend line, right? But we're pressing back above and we're headed back to the top of the range. So what we do here, adjust that trend line to the outermost point, like so, right? We're still in this range. Still in this range. So we'll watch as price continues to push to the upside. What happens when we get to 193, 362, 550, right? What happens in that range there, right? But we're headed long. We come down to the 4. Come down to the 4. And, right, we're right at that B boundary level. Okay, right at the B boundary level. I got the cloud on there. You see we're just pressing sideways through the cloud. Cloud moving sideways through price. So we're just headed back to the top of the range. All right, we'll see if we're able to break out above that. If we do, then we'll look at this 195 that Benny has his eyes on, right, for this 118, 127 zone on the 4, right? And that'll give us 80-20s on all the higher time frames, monthly, weekly, daily, and the 4, right? That could set us up for some larger things. So that again, I think this is something that also comes down to the Bank of Japan and how they choose to proceed, right? If they continue to kind of stay softer, we could see that level break. But if their warnings get more stern and their conversations become more serious, then we could see this turn back over. So we'll have to watch that one and see how things transpire there. Okay, so that's on the 4, then on the 1. And this is the larger fib coming off the low. So we got a 618 retracement. We're pushing to the upside, but the question, like I said, is going to be: do we get above 193, 550? Right? I got smaller fibs running here, just to watch these and see how they move. But ultimately, right, we could turn back over somewhere before we break that B boundary level. Right? So we'll watch that and see. Does the GJ move more than the UJ? I think the average true range is a little larger. The ATR 219. So I think the average true range is larger on the pound yen opposed to the dollar yen. But that's not something that I track. Let's see. Yeah. So it was a little larger.
Yeah, it is typically.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Benny, anything else before we wrap it up, bro?
No, sir.
Team, any questions before we wrap it up? All right.
Good morning, Ryan.
Good morning, Kiki.
How are you doing?
Doing well. You?
Very good. I was wondering when we can get the link because I joined very late and I'm driving, so I like to get home and then take my time to go through it.
Yep. That will be posted in the community. I got to get the kid ready for school, so I'll say give me about an hour, and
Thank you so much.
that'll be posted in the community for you.
Thank you.
All right. You're
Okay.
welcome.
Bye.
Bye. The other thing, team, right? Before we close things out, we do have an update on the course, right? You guys have been waiting patiently for me to get things in order when it comes to that cloud training. And I'm happy to say that it has finally been updated. So the cloud training, once you go into the course, right, it is under continuing education, right? Continuing education. So this is the section where you guys can see my screen, right? So this is a section where as we continue to build things out, there'll be some additional trainings here for you guys to go through, right? Just continue evolve your education, right? As we continue to evolve the platform. So different indicators that we talk about and we use can go here. We might even add some different entry techniques, things like that, or more things from those types of scenarios. So that's where it is in your course. So when you guys get time, go through it. This one does not have a quiz at the end. Okay, so but check it out, take a look at it. Take your time to go through it. I tried to break it up in logical parts, and parts that aren't too long. So that's there and available for you guys. So dive in. I hope it brings more value to you. All right. We will be back at it tomorrow morning, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for this pre-New York session. Until then, you guys have a phenomenal day. We'll see you in the community. Peace.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Welcome.